Welcome. So today, I don't really know what the topic is going to be, but I do want to share my thoughts on the things that I was thinking about today. So I'm going to go over to the word, and we're going to start it off with 1 Corinthians 13, starting at verse 4. Love is patient. And we're just going to stop it right there. Love is patient. Because I am telling you, you are going to need a lot of patience with this. This is something that I learned in the beginning when I would be out talking to people, especially if they were like just totally submerged in propaganda. It's hard for them to come to sensible conclusions, just logical things. There was one time where I was actually walking up and I was excited because I was like, yes, the guy that I gotta knock on his door, he's already outside, but he was talking to a lady, and I knew that there were a bunch of Kamala people in the neighborhood handing out flyers and trying to convince people to vote for her. And so I'm walking up and I'm like, okay, so let me just wait my turn, because when she's done with him, then I'm gonna jump in. So I'm standing there and I'm listening to the conversation, and I'm listening to this man tell her, I understand what you're saying, but right now, my daughter lives with me. And soon, my son is moving in. You know why? Because they can't afford to live on their own. So now, my adult children are moving in back home because everything is just too expensive. And this lady just couldn't get it. I mean, you just named, he's a racist. Do you really want a racist back in office? He's going to make your bills go up. Do you really want that? Do you really want a guy that would treat women this way? And he's telling her that the cost of living is it's unsustainable to the average young adult. And she's just continuing to give him the propaganda without even pausing for a moment to even hear him. And it's just funny to kind of see it live and in color. But I mean, it's no mystery, because the people that are feeding them follow the same track. It's the same track.
There's this sense, right, that whiteness, right, is under threat. The demographic shifts. The country isn't what all of these racially ambiguous children on Cheerios commercials are confusing the hell out of me. Right?
Hey, a lot of people voted because their life's too damn expensive, and it was here, and
they voted for. You're telling me, Stephanie, that all of these people who believe that their lives that bread is too high and eggs are too high, that they voted for a convicted felon, a guy who said we can grab the pea.
I think that a lot
they
of people,
voted for this guy.
I'm not defending it, but I think there are tons of people that don't pay attention to, and I'm not defending it, don't pay attention to politics at all. But while we live in the most prosperous country in the world, people are saying life's not fair. I'm not doing well. My son's still living in the basement. I can't seem to get a job. I don't like the status quo. I'm voting for something else. And he was the person.
I love you to life.
I love you.
But I do not believe that. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe that. And the reason I think you believe it is because you don't want to believe that that's what's really motivating them.
For Donald Trump, this is not about a micro issue like Gaza. It's people saying the cost of living is too high. The wages are too low. My life felt better under him. And I know what we'll say. Well, Goldman Sachs says the economy will do better under her. The analysts at UPenn and Wharton.
We'll see.
Nobody who is struggling to make ends meet at the table, like how am I going to pay this bill, cares what Wharton professors say about the economy.
With misinformation and disinformation.
Let just one more thing I want to. And finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border. The border crisis is on their doorstep. And they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not.
Knock. Who's there? Oh my gosh, it's Whoopi.
What is the most important thing that everybody is looking for? That is my question. I'll start with you.
Joe Biden's been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Whoa.
It would absolve her from being able to from having to oversee the January 6th transition, right, of her own defeat. And it would make sure that it would dominate the news at a point where Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things that the public want to see is the time. This is the moment for us to change the entire perspective of how Democrats
Okay, this
operate.
has now jumped from an internet meme to a Sunday morning show.
Jamal's out here right now.
Congratulations.
Season of House of Cards.
I thought you were going to say, what about the Supreme Court? That's also out there.
Well, the Supreme Court might happen. I don't know if it will, but I think this is something that's in Joe Biden's control. And if he did it, it would fulfill his last promise. It would give Kamala Harris the chance to be the 47th president of the United States of America. It would disrupt all of Donald Trump's paraphernalia. Right? He'd have to rebrand everything. But and it would make it easier for the next woman who runs for president to not have to worry about all the historical, weight of being the first. We can
Top
solve
that,
this problem
Brad.
in the
I
next
have
30
something
days.
that's a lot more realistic. There are 7 Americans right now in dungeons in Gaza. If Hamas does not have them walking and talking on American soil before Donald Trump is president, they will have hell to pay. And I'm looking for that to happen in the next 70 days.
So what we are looking at are real issues versus the demonic Marxist mindset. And what do I mean by that? It is a mindset that always thinks that anything and everything is against it for XYZ reason. And it puts on these lens that does not allow them to come to a logical or reasonable conclusion on anything. They don't want to take responsibility. And the funny thing to me is that you see it all around where people are bent out of shape because their mystery box didn't make it into office.
Harris's campaign, in their inability or unwillingness to define exactly what they would do in the first hours, the first days, weeks, and months, that her unwillingness to level with the American people and explain why some of her issues have changed demonstrated what a weak candidate she was. And in the end, it would have had to have been someone else, not her, who could have beaten Trump. She had never put herself to the test. She had failed in 2020. This is probably the most important thing for viewers. Her one chance to run for president, she had done such a horrible job, and that she didn't improve after 4 years.
It's like these people had no clue what they were getting ready to vote for. And it's amazing to me to even after the election to see the real issues versus the Marxist mindset. It's like they're still arguing over the woman's right to abort her own children. And yet the real issue right now is that we have a government that is plotting treason and a coup to the president-elect. You have governors all around trying to pad their states to do things that are illegal. But we're not talking about that. We are talking at the mystery of how can Americans vote for this person? That's not a real issue. And so it brings me to my final clip. And it was so funny because I was thinking about it last night, but when I was at work today, it like hit me so hard. I was like, oh my God, the woman in the red dress.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was. Look again. Freeze it.
You know, we are not fighting against people, but it really is a mindset. And as Morpheus is trying to explain this very real issue that he is going to be encountering, he said, Neo, are you listening? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? Look again. These people don't know that they were looking down a double barrel. They have no clue. They weren't listening to what was actually happening in our country. They were distracted with this nonsense. And the whole time, it was the woman in the red dress. So with all of that, Look past the misogyny and he's a felon. Look past all of the propaganda just for a moment. Hit pause and then look around the room and see what's happening. We have a government that has been running for 4 years. And whoever is running it was not elected to do so. We don't know where Joe Biden is. But anybody that thought that Joe Biden was actually in the driver's seat from jump. But right now, the machine is revolting.
If Trump attempts to weaponize the justice system against his political opponents with Matt Gaetz at the helm, we could see incoming Senator Adam Schiff as our shadow attorney general, arguing against replacing our independent prosecutors with Trump loyalists. If Trump seeks to eliminate the Department of Education, Congresswoman Johanna Hayes, a former Teacher of the Year, could step up as shadow education secretary to loudly defend public education in the United States. If Trump orders Marco Rubio to hand Ukraine and much of Eastern Europe to Russian President Vladimir Putin, Congressman Greg Meeks as Shadow Secretary of State, Senator Michael Bennet as Shadow Treasury Secretary, and Congresswoman Susan DelBene as Shadow Commerce Secretary, Shadow Defense Secretary, Congressman Adam Smith, a great representative for the people of Washington, Senator Tammy Duckworth could argue against cuts to the Department of Veterans Affairs that with big oil ally Lee Zeldin, we could see Congresswoman Kathy Castor pushing back for environmental protection.
Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
A seditious conspiracy that has its origins in the Civil War, where individuals plotted to overthrow the government. Seditious conspiracy means that one conspires, and you just need 2 or more people under federal law to overthrow, put down, or destroy the government by force.
Take a step back and look at what these politicians are doing. Because what they want you to look at isn't the main thing. And like I said in previous videos, it is going to take all of us. It is going to take all Americans to wake up and realize that we, too, must join in the process of taking our government back. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you on the next one. But until then, Bride of Christ, arise.